right.
Yo,
Yo, what's happening?
all sorts of good stuff. All sorts of good stuff. Too many to
Yeah,
list.
there's a big list. It's a really big list. We are Phil and Oscar on Focus on You. Hola, hello, ¿cómo estás? We are in Mexico today, right?
In
We
beautiful Puerto Vallarta. Yes.
Puerto Vallarta. I'm going to mess that up as much as I can. But we have a great guest straight out of Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. And you're going to love this episode. So tune in, get all your friends, tap somebody on the shoulder, say, how'd you like to go on vacation with me? All right. We enjoy having this guest because she has so much to share. And so we're going to be doing that now. Then, before we go into that, though, we want to welcome a new member of the Phoenix National Network team, and that is Miss Chloe Timothy. You're going to have to look her up because that is her. She is a world traveling speaker, and we are just so excited to be able to be hosting her podcast here on the Phoenix National Network. So, with no further ado, Oscar,
Talk to me.
just give us a little bit of a highlight on what's going on the identity, with the identity things.
Oh man, let me see.
World.
We just had I posted it yesterday on Instagram. We had American Express was hacked, Fidelity was hacked, um, more medical records are hacked. It's crazy out there. If you are not protected with a company that has, as we say, licensed private investigators to restore your identity, you're flying blind. It's crazy.
Okay, so listen, everybody, you need to reach out to Mr. Oscar Bell for more information on that because it is the Wild West out there, and we all want to make sure that we stay safe on the internet. All right, so I'm going to play a quick introduction to our guest so you can have an idea of who we are going to be interviewing today and what you need to know. So here we go.
Well, this is Casa de Influencia, which is the House of Influence. And the House of Influence is in beautiful Puerto Vallarta. And we are at the top of Old Town. So we are really in the cultural district of Puerto Vallarta, the heart of Puerto Vallarta. And it is the old town of Puerto Vallarta. So we have art galleries, we have the traditions and the traditional people that live in this area. So we're not in the tourist zone at all. This is an absolute cultural experience where you're coming to Casa de Influencia and you're meeting our Mexican neighbors. Our cooks and our chefs and our housekeepers are all Mexican. They're my Mexican family. They're the people that have made this absolutely possible. And what you will experience here is completely authentic and real Mexico. This has not been tamed for tourists in any way whatsoever. You've got to walk up a cobbled road to get to our front door, and you have to walk by our neighbors to be here. You will get this amazing experience here. You will eat the Mexican food, you will listen to the Mexican music, and you will get to actually understand what Puerto Vallarta and Mexico is all about, and how we can actually have this cultural exchange with the people of Puerto Vallarta. I have been here for 4 years, and I absolutely adore the people of Puerto Vallarta. They are warm, they are loving, they're compassionate, beautiful, beautiful people, where family and love is the number one important thing for them. And that's what I want everybody to understand when you come to the House of Influence, that this beautiful, beautiful place is a place where you can actually come and learn from the Mexican people. You can learn how to be a better person by actually working with these beautiful people and understanding what the Mexican culture is all about. And at the House of Influence here, what we're going to show you is an experience. We're going to take you on trips that are actually, off the grid. We're not going to go on a booze cruise. We're going to have a private boat where we're going to take you to experiences that you can't do as a tourist, because we know the local people and they know where to go. We know the best restaurants to take you with the best authentic Mexican food. We can show you flamenco guitars. We can take you to La Capella, where you can understand the history of Puerto Vallarta. That really Puerto Vallarta was born because of the movies. It was born because of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, and they fell in love with this place in the 50s. They built two beautiful homes that are literally 2 blocks away from here. There's this little bridge that goes across the road because Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor wanted to live in separate homes but have a bridge across. And this is where we are. We are in the heart of Puerto Vallarta, where Puerto Vallarta was actually born. And we're at the top of the hill. As you can see, we've got this amazing view of the whole Bay of Banderas. And I want to just tell you about the energy of this place. We have 17 ley lines that cross the Bay of Banderas. We're talking about a Stonehenge of Mexico with the vortex of energy that is here. As soon as you step off the plane, what you're going to experience is you're going to feel euphoric, you're going to feel great, you're going to feel happy. Everybody here smiles. Everybody is accepting of everybody else. You never see any racism. You never see people have problems with different sexual preferences. Everybody is beautiful, loving, and accepting of everybody else. And the minute you step off the plane, that is what you're going to feel. You're going to feel that energy and happiness and love of Puerto Vallarta, because this is a beautiful place. And Casa de Influencia, we're here to welcome you. Bring your groups here, whatever it is that you want to do. You can rent the whole facility. We have a minimum, we have 10 beds. We can actually sleep up to 20 people. We have this beautiful rooftop event space that can actually house up to 70 people for events. We have recording studios. So if you want to record podcasts, radio, video production, we have 3 soundproof recording studios. We have a co-work space. We have a beautiful Perotti solid wood table which can seat up to 14 people, and we have a big group of people right now, so you'll be able to see the video from that. And the whole place is inspired by Frida. So the minute you walk in the door, you have all the Frida beautiful colors, the blues and the pinks and the yellows. There's no white walls in Casa de Influencia. So please come and enjoy. Please learn about the culture, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you.
There's just so much to unpack in that video. I don't know where to start. Let me ask you, real quick, how did you get to this point in your life? What was your journey? We discussed that this morning on the Power Up Breakfast, that we evolve into where we are and not knowing where we were going to go when we started.
Yeah, well, that definitely was the case for me, Oscar. I left England 20 years ago, and it's interesting because this morning I welcomed a guest that just flew in from England, and so I was just reflecting with her about the difference in living in England compared to living in Mexico. But I didn't know where I would end up. I mean, when I left 20 years ago, I actually got on a sailboat. So I purchased a sailboat in Africa with my best friend, and neither of us had an agenda. We just said we want to go find ourselves. We don't feel like we belong in England. It doesn't feel that this is it. It feels like there's a lot more, and that there's something that we're both destined to do that we didn't know what that was. And so I spent 4 years in Africa and Asia living on a sailboat. So,
Wow.
That was such a very different lifestyle. I mean, I was living, prior to that, I was were living that very opulent lifestyle of the 30s. I was at the top of my career in marketing. I was traveling international, going to Hong Kong and China and the Philippines every year with my product marketing job. And I, lived in a big Elizabethan home overlooking the golf course. And, I had what appeared to be the most successful lifestyle. And yet I wasn't happy. And
something is missing.
Something was missing. Something was missing. Yeah. And so I discovered that by sailing around the world, and we spent a lot of time in Africa, and Africa had a huge impact on me, understanding and observing different cultures and the way that different people live. And, there was the people that I observed that were in poverty appeared to be the happiest people. Like those that were actually weren't encumbered by belongings or money or concern of cars or whatever. They seemed to be the happiest people, right? They were always singing and dancing and happy. And then as I got to Asia and I crossed the Indian Ocean, I began to observe that even within the culture of the people that were living on boats. So it's as though once you are disconnected from, all of those pressures of society and you're living in nature, you can't become that way too, right? And I lived on a desert island for 3 months, and there was probably like 50 boats there, and we became like this community of people that helped one another. We'd get on the radio every morning and be like, hey, does anybody still got garlic left? Because I really miss garlic. And so we go, hey, I've got some garlic if you can trade it for some canned fruit, or so we ended up living this lifestyle, which was really community based and helping one another. And by the time I got to Thailand, I then sort of ran out of money, as you would. So I started a kind of charter business where we would take guests, but travelers. So we would actually take backpackers on the boat, and we would show them a different lifestyle. So they would come live on the boat. We'd teach them what it was like to live on a boat, what it was like to be self-sufficient. We'd teach them how to sail. And then we would go on trips to secluded islands so that they could really experience, true nature. And after 4 years, 4 years turned into 7 years, and I ended up also sailing in Mexico. And then eventually after 7 years, it was like, okay, I can't be a sea gypsy for my whole life.
Why not? Sounds amazing.
Actually, I sometimes Oscar, I think I would like to be a sea gypsy for my whole life. I mean, I do. There's times when I really miss that lifestyle, I have to say. But I was at the point where, by that time I was like 35, 36. And I'm like, okay, I have to think about, like, can I really live like this for the rest of my life? Or do I need to look and see, like, where is it that I belong? What is my purpose? And when I arrived in Canada, of course, lots of people were asking me, how did you do that? How did you sail around the world for 7 years? Like, you didn't have a job, like you didn't have insurance, like, are you rich? Like, how did you live? Like, where did your money come from? All the questions that people ask. And so they were saying, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I thought, well, I guess I could write a book. I mean, I've never written a book before, but my background's marketing. So I was like, well, I can just treat this like any other product, right? And when I'm bring products to market, I say, okay, well, I'm going to bring this product to the market, i.e. a book. Who is my audience? What do they want to know? What is it that they need to know from me? What's the information that they keep asking me? And how am I going to deliver that information? So I just took the writing of a book like that. I didn't think of it as how do you write a book or where do you get started? I was just like, okay, I'm just going to approach this in the same way as I approached marketing. And it turned out to be the best way to write a book. And as I wrote the book, and then I did more research into publishing, everybody was giving me the feedback again, saying, wow, this is amazing. This is how everybody should write books. Because, a lot of people just start writing their story and they don't know who their reader is or why they're writing the book or who they're writing the book for. And so when I started sharing how I did this, everybody was like, oh my, you should teach this. You should teach this to people. You should tell people about this. You should be a publisher. And so, just from that feedback, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And so I ended up teaching this process. I called it Inspire a Book. So it was inspiring people to share their story, but to share their story, not from that kind of egotistical, like I've had a really interesting life and everybody wants to know about my story. More about, people keep asking me, how did you do this? How did you do that? And sharing my life and helping other people to share their life, their gifts with the world, right? And sharing that information. So that became Inspire a Book, was the curriculum of teaching people how to do that. And then I started my publishing company because people kept saying, well, how do I get published? How do I get published? And I was like, well, I guess I could publish you. So, so I ended up starting a publishing company. And before I knew it, Oscar, I had published, right now, I've published over 300 authors. And,
Wow.
And that's been going now for 14 years. And what I discovered was that I couldn't really just settle in Canada, even though I think I had found my purpose by helping people to share their stories. I realized that, that lifestyle, that Canadian lifestyle, I was missing nature so much. I was missing nature. I was missing, living on the boat. And
And
so
warmth.
and
Warmth.
I was definitely missing the sun. Yes, I was definitely missing the sun. And so Puerto Vallarta happened to be the closest place, the closest destination from Vancouver. So I was living in Vancouver at the time, and everybody said, "Oh, you should just go to Puerto Vallarta. It's wonderful there. It's a great atmosphere." And it's only 4 hours from Vancouver. It's only 2 hours flight from LA, right? I mean, it's a super convenient place for North Americans to come on vacation. And when I got down here, I fell in love with it, Oscar. I was like, this place is amazing. The minute I stepped off the plane, I'm like, what's going on here? Like the energy, the people, like everybody's smiling, people dancing and singing in the streets. And I'm like, I've never experienced a place like this. And I'm like, okay, let's look at this. I have traveled around the world. I've probably been to 40 countries. I've been looking for home. And that's what happened when I stepped off that plane, as I realized this is home. Like I've never felt like this anywhere. Like it's the energy. And what I discovered was that there's a vortex of energy in Puerto Vallarta. It's a big bay, which is called the Bay of
You did
Mexico.
mention ley lines.
Yes,
Which
exactly.
A lot of people don't know about it. A lot of times where ley lines cross, there is some sort of church or some sort of religious building. There's an energy flow that they would feel back then and say, hey, this is where we have to put this building.
Exactly. And actually the ley lines connect all of those spiritual sites together. So if you actually look at a map and look at all the ley lines and how they're connected, just like you said, Oscar, everywhere where you find the ley lines crossing is a spiritual site. And so if you look through history, Stonehenge, the pyramids, some of the big churches, everywhere where the ley lines cross is a spiritual site. And in Puerto Vallarta, there is a mysterious rock formation. It's natural, but the ocean is 2,000 feet deep underneath this rock formation. And the rest of the bay is like, not even 500 feet. It's just this right where this rock formation is 2,000 feet deep, and the divers have been down there. They've tried to get to the bottom. It's just like a cliff that nobody can explain. There's lots of theories. Some people say a spaceship landed there. Some people say a meteor, a big a meteorite landed there and made a big hole. There's all kinds of different theories, but just like Stonehenge and just like the pyramids, it's a mysterious place where people don't quite understand what happened there in history and why this has this really amazing energy, right? That emanates from that whole area. And of course, because it's a bay, this energy of the ley lines is actually emanating the whole bay. And like I said, it, like, you come here and you feel it.
You feel it, yes.
You can feel it. And
Yeah.
and where our building is, one of the ley lines actually crosses right crosses right the middle of our building. And so I have a lot of people that come into the building, and it's the same thing. They walk into the building and they go, wow, what is it about this place? Like, it feels amazing. Like, it feels great. And so when you feel like that, Oscar, then you know it's home. And so it took a while. I was coming down here in the winters, doing writing retreats here. And then eventually I was like, I have to just live here full time, because, you know, every time I left the place, I was kind of pulled and drawn back here. And I'm like, obviously this is where I'm supposed to be living.
That energy vortex is pulling you back. It's like, no, I got you now.
Well, that's right. And that is what inspired me for Vortex TV, because, you know, in the last 2 years, I've been running the House of Influence here, which is right in the central area of Puerto Vallarta, as you saw on that trailer. And magic happens here, Oscar. People come here, they feel that vortex of energy, and they leave a changed person. They, you know, when people come here and they say, you know, I've got a dream to whatever, right? And we work on that dream and we start to make that dream a reality. You know, for those people that know about the vortex, you know, there's lots of theories about the word vortex and what happens in the vortex. But it is a field of energy where, you know, we can create from that by making contacts and connections. And I look at your background there, where you can see all of those little synapses and all those little connections happening. And that's basically what happens in the vortex. So I'm like, well, okay, well, what better way to put out there our dreams of how we can be of service to the world and how we can help the world, but with Vortex TV. So I created Vortex TV so we can talk about all of the amazing things that people are creating to make this world a better place. And so that's what Vortex TV is about. And that happens here at the House of Influence. And so people come here with amazing ideas. Some of the, for example, this was one of the last projects that I did. Therapists are human too. So, you know, we wanted to, a lot of the therapists feel that, you know, there's still a stigma around mental health.
If you can flip your video, because I'm getting it backwards. If I was dyslexic, I would read it perfectly. No, if you can flip your camera, because
oh, I don't know. I am dyslexic, so that's a little challenge for me. I can disable my camera, but I can't do it, unfortunately. So
right.
Because I didn't tell you that point, but I am actually dyslexic. So I'm actually probably the world's first dyslexic book publisher. But I'll tell you, without the picture's probably a bit distracting, but I'll tell you about it anyway. You know, basically, because of the therapists that came here, they all came together, and all together they said, you know, the one thing that they wish they could help is to take the stigma away from seeing a therapist, and from, you know, the stigma that comes with mental health. So we wanted to write a book where we talked about the reciprocal benefits of therapy. And the therapists were very vulnerable, and they shared their stories about how their lives have been changed by their patients. So, you know, and honestly, the magic that happened, Oscar, when that group of people were here, and for 1 week, all they were doing were focusing on telling their stories and saying, this is how, not only how I've helped my clients, but how my clients have helped me. And some of the incredible stories that came out, and then literally, you know, miracles happened. One woman talked about her life being adopted, and she had realized in the week that she was sharing and writing her story that she'd always had this yearning to know her real family. But at the same time, she also knew that she had many opportunities to be raised in this beautiful family that showed her true love. And so at the end of the retreat, when she decided to write her chapter about that, she said, and I've been on 24andMe for 20 years trying to find my real family. Nothing's ever showed up. But I'm okay with that. I'm what I've realized on this retreat and being away from the busyness of life and being with all of these other therapists, what I've realized is I am so grateful for the love that I received from my adoptive family. And I want to put it out to the universe there that I'm just so grateful. And I'm not attached to knowing who my true family is anymore. And she left here, Oscar. And when she got home, the very first email that she had was from 24andMe with a 100% blood sister that had
Wow.
written to her, right? And it's like, for me, I've got shivers like telling you, but that's the kind of miracle that happens when people come into this vortex of energy. When you put it out way beyond just me and you talking, right? We're putting it out to the universe. We're putting it out to, everybody that's connected together, everybody that has all of these connections, and we don't even realize
Well,
how we're connected.
It's called quantum entanglement. We are actually all connected. And the more I believe it was Albert Einstein that called quantum physics spooky science because it just didn't make sense. But now there's a guy Tellinger out in Africa that had discovered all of these circles, and they said, oh, there's these circles, and when he flew in an airplane, he's like, there's millions of these circles, and they're made by people, that they just don't naturally occur. And he goes there to study and sees that the magnetic poles are different depending on where in that circle you are. So none of that made sense. And it's, the more we understand Einstein, E equals MC squared, which is energy. Basically, if you slow down energy enough, you'll get matter. And if you speed it up, it goes back to energy. So we're all basically energy. And the more that we can tune into the energy and vibration and everything else, the more we get out of life. And like you said, there are some places that just happen to be like, this is where you want to be if you want to tune into everything that's available, and then you leave, with like a rubber band. Once it's stretched, it never goes back to its original, small size. So the fact that you found, or that place found you, I don't know,
Yes.
How we're going to.
The place found me. Yeah, absolutely. The place found me. I mean, it was just even, like a miracle, the way that I even found this place, because I had lost my fiance. He died 2.5 years ago, COVID related situation, and I had pneumonia myself, and things were looking extremely bleak for me here in Puerto Vallarta. And but I had, because I'm in that energy field, my fiance on the other side was able to kind of reach out and, I say, miraculously direct me to this place. You talk about coincidence, you talk about, how that happens. And, I just started to get messages from other people. Like, he wasn't able to connect with me directly, but because I have published many spiritual authors, in my the 300 authors that I've published, I've published many, many spiritual books, and books that talk about quantum energy and quantum fields. And, I had quite a few people that worked on Bruce Lipton's work, right? So, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So, I that energy vortex of other people, that are all connected. And so I kept getting messages from them saying, for some reason you're supposed to be going downtown. You have to go to the old town of Puerto Vallarta. And I was like, well, I don't know why. And I personally, I prefer the jungle, and I was living out in the jungle, but I was like, well, I guess I just have to guess. I have to just be trusting and surrender. And so I said, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try living downtown, and I'm going to see what it's like. I've never done it before. I'm just going to try it. So I started looking for an apartment, and every apartment that showed up was in this building. So this used to be right. It used to be a 10 apartment building. And so every apartment was advertised separately on different platforms. And
Wow.
so I didn't even realize that it was the same place until I got here. And then I walked up the street and I saw this great big for sale sign. And I just immediately, I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like, really? I'm supposed to be buying this place?
Can you make it any more obvious?
Yeah, right. I know. And as I walked in the building, I started getting all these visions. You're just seeing this picture right now of the website. You can see the rooftop. I got this vision that it was going to have the biggest wooden dance floor in Puerto Vallarta. I saw this new staircase that came up from what was the penthouse, and in the penthouse bedroom, I saw this huge perote wood table. I saw the podcast studios. I was literally flooded with visions of what this place now looks like. And of course, I didn't have the money to buy a building. I mean, I'd just been in intensive care without any insurance in Puerto Vallarta. And so I was in debt for 6 figures, and I'm like, well, that's the craziest thing to think that I would buy a building when I'm in so much debt. And yet I just kept saying, if it's meant to be, let it be. If it's meant to be, let it be. Every single morning, Oscar, every single morning, I was living here, renting an apartment, and I would just say, if this is meant to be, it's going to be. And I would just surrender to it. And all magical coincidences happened, and I found investors that were interested in the project, and I completed on the building. I did. The divine timing doesn't quite work the way that the human timing does.
Right.
So it was a little stressful, right, to get the investors in time for the completion date. But it happened. And honestly, when it happened to me, I was just like, this is got to be the biggest miracle, honestly, that
so far.
well, so far. And of course, now I keep getting I'm getting new messages, and my next project that I'm actually looking for investors for right now is a jungle retreat. So now I'm on to the next retreat. This is the cultural center. But because of the TV work, and I'm getting this very big message that Vortex TV is the way I'm moving forward to get this message out and be a bridge for people with amazing ideas like these therapists that I'm telling you about. There's so much information out there in health and wellness and spirituality and the quantum field. And it's like, it needs to be out there. We need to be able to change the world. And so yeah, I need a different location for filming. I've already been speaking to Phil about building a green room so that we can make documentaries, we can make short films, we can make TV series. And so on Friday, I'm going to go look at some land that's right in the jungle. It's it's still only within 30 minutes of Puerto Vallarta.
Wow.
But it's back in the jungle, and it's like completely, there's no neighbors, there's no noise. It's just a perfect film location. So that's my next step. And, so there we go. I'm putting it out there on Focus on You. Like, if anybody's interested in getting involved in a jungle retreat, that's where I'm going. There we go. Awesome. My first sign-up person.
I mean, I had the luck of my job taking me out to Costa Rica for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Beautiful.
I went from, inner city New York to living on top of a mountain, looking down at like 90% of the Costa Rican population. It was just such a beautiful, and I can understand, for people that have never lived outside the country, from it's a different energy. People, you get off the plane and it smells different. I don't know if you can
Yes.
you can understand it.
Yes.
It's just the whole place smells different.
Yes.
it was, and again, you said that, you take private trips with people. We made friends with a tour guide,
Right.
and he took us to a place where turtles lay eggs.
Mm,
The
mm.
big sea turtles come in, and having that private guide is fantastic. He woke us up one morning. Says, like, you guys, we're at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Be dressed. Be outside. All right, fine. We get out there, and he's like, "Come on." We go down to where the flat boats are that go through the all the little tributaries, and it was just me, my boss, the guide, and the guy that ran the boat. He's like, "Before the tourists get up, we're gonna take you." So we got a private tour of, got to see crocodiles and otters and all, and
Oh,
it was
yeah.
just so. It was like it was just us. It was so good.
Yes. I do it. I do exactly the same, Oscar. I mean, I've been here 4 years, and so and because my fiance was Mexican, I've had access, right? Had access to all of the amazing places that, like you say, the tourists do not go to. And so
Right.
when I organize a retreat here, and this is available for private rent. The price is ridiculous. It's you can rent the whole facility for only $6,000 a week. We can sleep. We have up to 16 bedrooms, right?
Wow.
So if you think about that and think about, like, what does
Do the
that,
math.
right? Do the math, right? It's like all you got to do is get a group of 10 people together, right? And it's $600 each. I mean, it's a crazy price, and I've done that deliberately because I want to bring people together that want to create magic together, right? Because when we come together as a group, when we connect and we collaborate, magic absolutely happens. And I take them to the most amazing place. Of course, we go to Los Arcos, which is the spiritual center that I told you about. We go and visit the rocks, and often the people that are with me want to do either a meditation or they just want to feel the energy of the place. Often we set our intentions, so we'll write our intentions of how we want to see the world and how we can personally make a difference in the world, and we'll write our intentions and we'll throw them into the ocean right by Los Arcos where those ley lines are, and we really focus on getting that message out. So the book I showed you, the book is the starting place. I mean, I've done a lot of these books. These are all collaborative books that I've done. It's something that for me is very easy. I've been doing it for 14 years. People say, I'm not a writer. I don't know what to write about. I don't know how to tell my story. I'm like, that's why you're going to come here for a week. That's what I help you do. All of these people that have businesses, they're entrepreneurs, they are, being of service to people. I help them really explain how they help their customer, how they help, other people in the world, in 5,000 words, right? So you could call me a brand manager. That's where my background from England is now being used, right? So, I've got the Vortex TV. I'm interviewing people. I have a podcast show, which is called Life with Collective Purpose, where I also interview people. I can help them write a book, and it's a lot easier when you do it as a group, 10 people, 15 people. Each person has a chapter. So each person is almost like has a little mini book, if you like. And then when you've got 10 people, that are all collaborating together, that's where magic starts. Because, oh, you didn't know Diane. Well, look, Diane does this, and she's got 30 years in A Course in Miracles, and she has a Course in Miracles group, and she helps people, really step into their purpose. And, oh, so now we know what Diane does. And Diane actually is connected to Melinda, and Melinda, she helps people that have got cancer, and they're trying to recover from cancer and find purpose in their cancer, and she helps them to do that. So then all of a sudden, all these people have got a network times 10, right? So, Diane's got a network of, let's say, 5,000 people. So now the 10 people that she's connected to have now got access to a network of 50,000 people, right? So you're bringing this vortex of connection, and this is the way to do it, like a collaborative book. And I make it fun, and I make it easy. And I say to people, when they say, I can't write, I don't know how to share my story, I say, well, I'm dyslexic.
So
And I'm a
beat
book
that.
publisher.
Well, here's the thing, that not everybody has a book, but everybody has a story.
Everybody has a
And
story.
and if you can find someone that help you put your story on paper,
Yes,
there's the bonus. Like, yeah, I got a
exactly.
great story, but I don't know how to write a book. Well, of course not. If you did, you would have already written one. This is why. Yeah, and what do we say with Phil? Save yourself time, money, and energy, and hire an expert.
Yeah,
And if you want to get your if you want to be published, if you want to be out there, find someone that's got over 300 people that she's helped publish. It's like, yeah, my story is different. No, it's not. It's just not written yet, and
exactly.
it's a lot easier than you thought it would be. And
Well, and the thing is, I think the mistake that a lot of people make with publishing Oscar is they try to do it alone,
right,
and because there's so much, options now with self-publishing, people go, oh, I can write my story and I can just load it up to KDP on Amazon and that's it. And it doesn't cost me anything. And it's like, wow, you have got no idea how much it's costing you, because if you put out your stuff there without any help, you could do so much damage to your reputation, so much damage. I've seen it so many places, and I'm like, please, please, please don't do that, because when I either have people tell me their idea for a story, or they even show me some writing that they've done, I'm like, okay, well, let's just get out of the ego and let's just make this orientated to the reader. Like, the reader does not want to know about your trauma. The reader does not want to know about all of the awful things that's happened to you in your life. What the reader wants to know is, how did you overcome them? And how did you take all of that trauma and turn it into victory, turn it into, the contrast of, I learned all these things in my life and now I can teach all these things to other people. That's what you write about. And so, but I still have people say, but I can't write. Like, can I have a ghostwriter? And I'm like, okay, listen, you don't have to be a good writer to be a good author. That you don't have to be a good writer. That is what the publishing company does, and that is what the editing team does. All you need to do is tell your story, and then leave it up to the editing team to do all the rest. They're the ones that can turn your story into good writing, which makes for a good book. And that's what I say to everybody. You do not need to be a good writer. You don't even need to know how to write to be a good author, right? As long as you're using a publishing company with a great editing team, and I get the story, I pull the story out of you. I get to make sure that you're doing it from the perspective of the reader. That's the first thing I ask people. Why are you writing this book? Who are you writing the book for? What do they want to know? That is what I help people do. And that, when we do it in a week in Puerto Vallarta, come on, do it for a week in Puerto Vallarta. Like, I just yesterday I spoke to Phil about a package that I was putting together for PNN members, and it works out to $995 to be involved in a book project, right? Like, that's
wow.
if you want to do that, if you want to do it remotely. If you want to come to Puerto Vallarta and do it, $2,000, like $2,000 for a week, all accommodation, all food, excursions to the most amazing places, and a week of tuition from me to pull out the story from you, and then to do all of the editing, all of the publishing, and to come together to market the book as a bestseller. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
You can't get an Airbnb for that much. That's just a place to stay.
Exactly. So that's there. And I think there's going to be lots of people that are listening to this that say, okay, I've got a group of, therapists that, or I'm a member of a coaching organization, or I'm a member of a health and wellness organization, or I'm a member of, financial consultants. It's just a question of organizing everybody together and bring them together as a group. So if you want to do that, just contact me and let's talk about the ideas. You can contact me at houseofinfluence.mx. You can contact me through the PNN network and Oscar and Phil. And yeah, let's talk about it, because there's so many opportunities, and I am here just to help people share their stories. That's what my purpose in life is, and I'm making this affordable and fun so people can come to Puerto Vallarta and come together as a group and and enjoy sharing their story.
I like to go down there and just talk to you about quantum physics and Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton. I'll be there all day talking about those guys.
Oh yeah, no, you'd have a great time. Have you ever written a book, Oscar?
No, I've read one, I believe, but I've never written one. No.
Well, just from talking to you now, I would say that you've definitely got enough content to talk about. Because taking those, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, the whole quantum physics, that topic is fascinating.
Yes.
And but for people to understand it and to understand what's possible, they need stories. They need stories to see how has this happened in your life or in your experience. How have other people experienced this? And then people need to relate. So you can talk about these best-selling authors, but at the end of the day, you need to share your personal experiences and people that are in your network and their personal experiences. And that's really what I encourage people to do, because we all need stories. We need to hear stories of normal, everyday people. Normal, everyday people. We can't all
Define
be,
normal.
well, okay. I guess what I'm saying from the perspective of normal is, when you talk about people like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza, people
Those
put
are
them on.
extraordinary people that
Yeah,
everybody holds in high regard.
exactly. And you can be them. You can do exactly what they do. You just need to understand, the basics and how other people that are normal people, not those high pedestal people, have brought that into their life, just like I did. I was at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom in grief, just got overcome pneumonia. I just literally just was able to just lost the love of my life, and I'm like pulled up, and I'm told, like, this is your life mission now, to
Yeah.
help other people do this. And so that's what I'm here for. And I have the Vortex TV, I have the publishing company, I have the podcast company, I'm on the local radio, I'm a TEDx speaker. I've done all of the media platforms that people need to get their message out to the world. And I'm like, now I'm going to make it affordable for you to just escape your everyday life, where you can't write and you can't share your story because you're too busy with life. That's what a retreat is all about. You come for a week and magic happens.
I love it. Oh, Julie, this has been a great interview. Loved it. I don't know where Phil is. I know he's doing a lot of stuff in the background, and he's busy. He's like a one-legged man trying to kick down the door in a windstorm. Uh, but you might pop in and say hi. But really want to thank you for that. And this won't be the last time we're on, because I got like bunches of notes. Like, I have to ask her about this. So next time we speak, that will be a fill in the blank for all these other questions I have.
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of stories, Oscar. I mean, that's why I wrote a book. But I do have a lot of stories, a lot of experiences to share with people. But just like you said, what my goal is to help other people share their stories. So that is my priority. And if I can share one of my stories that help people, inspire people, to know what's possible. I mean, we are creators. We can create anything we want. And,
Yes.
When I hear people say things like, oh, I'm just going to work really hard so I can spend more time with my family in retirement, then I can give people a different perspective on that and say, you know
Right.
what? That might never happen. You need to spend time with your family right now.
Now.
Right now. Stop delaying things. Stop delaying writing that story. I have so many people say, oh, one day I'm going to write a book. You know what? That one day might not happen. And I have helped people write down their legacy literally on their deathbed. I've said, we can do this before you die. because we do not want this legacy to die with you. And I've published some amazing books where I've literally helped people leave their legacy before they pass. And so stop putting it off. Don't put it off one moment longer. Write that book, share that story, come to Puerto Vallarta and have some fun.
Love it. I will take you up on that next time we talk, and I'll talk to you about energy and my growing up being clairvoyant as a child and seeing and interacting with ghosts and other energies. It's wild. So
yeah,
a
Oscar,
lot
we
about
could have really juicy conversations.
Thanks so much. We will see you again, hopefully soon.